Hello and welcome to this review of my Cherry G80-9009 HAG. I bought this keyboard off someone with the money I made selling some Cherry ABS double-shot keycaps, which is ironic because I'm getting a whole board full of them in return. These keyboards are custom made by Cherry for Reuters, one of the world's largest news agencies, and they obviously spared no expense because this board is pretty high spec. Reuters themselves called it the AK-124, as you can see below the company logo. Sounds like some kind of modern assault rifle. Now, I can't use this keyboard, unfortunately, as it requires a special device called a KMD3, which looks like a router, and it also requires specific cables for the ports you can see here. Alas, both are hard to find and would probably not be cheap even if I did, so in the meantime I have to make do with using it as an exhibition piece. And let's be honest, what an exhibition piece it is. It was originally pretty dirty, bad enough that I didn't even notice the case was two-tone, as you can see here at the side. And the case and one or two of the caps have some scratches on them, some shine on the keycaps as well, but not much yellowing fortunately. I cleaned it up a bit though, and now it's looking pretty good, I'd say. Although the caps and some other things on the back are a dead giveaway that the keyboard was made by Cherry, it is decidedly un-Cherry in a number of ways in terms of construction. The ubiquitous G80-3000, which is pretty much the standard model Cherry board, and of which I've reviewed two already, is light and has a very cheap, flimsy feel. The case is thin and hollow, and it's clamped together with nothing but some plastic clips, which I'll show you. These things here at the back. That's the only thing that's keeping this board together. The PCB isn't held in place by screws or clips or even indentations in the case, it just kind of floats around in there. All in all, the build quality of these is barely above that of a cheap rubber dome keyboard. This thing, on the other hand, is heavy, as much as 2.4 kilos, more than twice the weight of a 3000, and more than a Model M. It's got over 30 screws in there that stick everything securely in place, and the switches at the top are even plate mounted rather than the usual PCB mount Cherry switches have, although the normal part of the board here below is still PCB mount. The case is screwed in and feels tough and dependable, and it's got a really nice swooping curve to it that you can see here. Reminds me a little bit of a Dell Bigfoot, which is another very good looking keyboard. Speaking of which, it's actually slightly bigger than a Dell Bigfoot, which immediately puts it into the fucking huge category. It's got standard Cherry flip-out feet with these built-in rubber cushions to prevent slipping. I've always found that a nice touch. And now that we're at the back, I'll show you the model sticker as well. And it's got some sticker here in Japanese or Chinese which says something. Notice that the model sticker actually ends in HAG, which is rather misleading because that suggests it's got Cherry MX black switches, while it's actually got MX clears. Speaking of which, these switches are a major part of why I got this keyboard, as I've been very curious to try them out. MX clears are kind of the black sheep of the Cherry MX family, and opinions are quite divided on them. They're a tactile, non-clicky switch, but they feel quite different from other tactile MS switches like MX Browns. They're stiffer, and the force rises much more steeply after the tactile bump, and the tactile bump itself is more pronounced but more gradual as well. The tactile bump vaguely resembles the drawn-out tactile bump of Alps SKCM Black actually, but Black Alps have a much more sudden drop-off in force, making them feel more tactile overall. Still, they feel more tactile than Browns, and that's partly why I wanted to give these a try, because I'm really not a fan of other tactile Cherry switches. The problem is that the way the tactility in Cherry switches is generated is very rudimentary. It's just a kink in the plastic slider. This causes a very rough feeling with multiple bumps, none of which are very sharp, so it feels more like riding over a cobblestone road than a clear, clean bump. And this has led to many people describing the key feel as that of scratchy MX Reds. To be honest, I'm a bit disappointed with the tactile feel in these clear switches too. It's not as strong as I'd hoped, but it's still a considerable improvement over MX Brown, which is one of my least favorite switches in the world. Now, as for the rise in force at the end, this was implemented to help prevent the user from bottoming out. Now, I'm a bit of a caveman, so I always bottom out on everything. On some keyboards I type much harder than on others, but overall I hit the switches pretty hard. I type like that. These do really help you to not bottom out though. Even without actually being able to use it in day-to-day tasks, I can tell it really changes the way I type. I've only ever seen this before once in such a dramatic fashion, namely with Monterey switches. Montereys have a very light, crisp, delicate touch, and it more or less automatically made me type very softly. These made me type so light and delicately I had trouble going back to the stiffer Alps switches after I'd used that for a week. I'm pretty sure it would be the same with these Cherry MX Clears. They really feel very springy. It makes for a very unique key feel. Of course, they also come with a trademark Cherry advantage that they don't bind at all. You can press any key anywhere and it will go down absolutely smoothly without it getting scratchy or stiffer, which is one of Cherry's key advantages in my opinion. Like I mentioned before, the keycaps are made out of double shot ABS, a very nice high quality printing, and they come in beige, grey, green, dark green and red colors, which gives the board a nice and colorful appearance overall. Being a specialty keyboard, some of the keycaps are pretty funky, such as this interrupt button. There's a green deal button, some funky looking thing over here, almost romantic yours and mine button here, and a red XMIT button, which apparently is short for transmit. The linguistic heathen who came up with this abomination was probably also responsible for horrors such as extals instead of crystals, and pedxing for pedestrian crossing. To be honest, the legends actually sound more like those used in a stock market than those that would be used by a news agency, especially this bid, offer, ideal, and change. But oh well. The keycaps are super thick and give the switches a rather deep sound. Especially the plate-mounted ones at the top here. The lettering is very bold, typical for double-shot cherries, and looks really nice and high quality. Again, Reuters appear to have spared no expense. Beyond the fantastic keycaps, Reuters had some even more fancy stuff installed though. Of course, there's no missing this massive liquid crystal display at the top of the keyboard, and it even looks like it might have a fairly reasonable amount of pixels on it. Would be awesome if I could get that to work. It's got a small speaker behind this grill here, and what appears to be 2 volume control buttons, as well as this little thing I've seen on a few keyboards, but I don't know what it does. It's got as many as 149 keys, which is one of the highest amounts available on a commercial keyboard after this key data keyboard, and it includes 24 F keys, but they're not programmable as far as I know. There's also a diode soldered into every switch, indicating that the keyboard has N-key rollover. They really went for the best here. The keys here at the top suggest that the terminal it came with might have as many as 4 screens, and all these keys at the top here have got lock lights. In fact, it has more lock lights than any other keyboard I've ever seen, 11 in total, with 2 more under these 2 switches here, but they don't even have an LED window for them, bizarrely. Overall, it's a real shame I can't use this keyboard. I'd happily grace my desk at work with this behemoth. It's massive and built like a tank, but looks elegant, colourful and pretty, even kind of modern, not bad for a board from 1998. The switches are rather stiff, but bizarrely they make for a light typing feel nonetheless. I'm not sure everyone will like these, but I don't find them unpleasant, frankly. That's it for this review. I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you for watching, and here is a typing demonstration of me typing on this keyboard.